Apple stock is coming off its sixth consecutive day of gains, up close to 6% over the past month. Followed a rocky start to the year. I think it's up now on the year. Joining us to talk Apple and tech is Gene Munster, Deepwater Asset Management, managing partner. Stillwater's run deep, I'm told. Gene, is that,
Indeed.
That part of the thinking? Yeah, that's what I think of. I think of you, very calm, but runs very deep. Stillwater's. Why is it up? And you never really threw in the towel. You always thought. I think that Apple was probably any weakness was an opportunity.
I did, Joe, and ultimately Apple has obviously been late to the game when it comes to AI, and the move here, call it up 15% since they reported their last quarter, is anticipation for next week. Before I talk about the kind of the bigger picture, what to expect next week, I do want to caution that this is a traditional buy in the rumor, sell in the news. So don't grade how Apple has done in AI based on how the stock trades in the next day after the event on June 11th. But just quickly, Joe, the reason why I didn't throw in the towel is that Apple has a unique asset that, of course, is the 2.2 billion active devices. Those are monthly devices, and that is the window that 20% of the world is going to experience AI. And, of course, they can quickly bring those to market with a partnership, most likely with OpenAI, improve Siri, and ultimately start to inch back towards revenue growth. That's the second piece of why the stock is improving. For the last 2 years, revenue's been flat. It'll be up a couple percent in June, 4% in September, and 6% in December. So combination of what we're going to see next week, along with improving revenue growth, is what gets us back to a better place for Apple shares.
No new hardware, you don't think? Doesn't need it?
Probably, yeah. They kind of showed the new M series a couple weeks ago, introduced that in a surprise move in an iPad. That's typically in a Mac where that would come out. But this is not going to be the hardware event. They'll save that, of course, for September when they come out with a new A chip. Eventually, we will see a shift in terms of, I expect a new chip architecture from Apple. Not this year, probably in 2025. Think of a GPU for a smartphone. This will be used to run small language models. So I think Apple is going to increasingly rely on silicon as a competitive advantage, but I don't expect to hear much at the developer side of the business.
And this will do it. This will vault Apple into the ranks of player in AI, do you think, or do they never actually catch up?
Well, it's going to vault Apple, it's going to vault the world into using more AI products. As much as we talk about it, most people actually don't experience it. And so very similar to what Apple has done in terms of shift the paradigm shift from the mouse to the touch interface, the AI interface, and AI embedded in the operating system is going to be a vault forward. That will improve their business. It's not going to go. We're not talking about a business going from 2 to 30% growth. This is 2 to 5% and sustained. That is a vault in terms of Apple when you're a $400 billion revenue company, but it is a different conversation than what's gone on with Google and Meta, for example, and what they have been tapping into, obviously, NVIDIA. So I wouldn't call it a vault, but I would call it a huge step forward in terms of how we're going to use Apple products.
I haven't used Siri. You use Siri, Becky?
No.
It was so bad that I don't even attempt it. Is this really a game changer for Siri? Do you think? Will you show me what I can use it for, Gene? Can you come in? And, yeah.
Well, it definitely is going to be this is going to probably be the shiniest things that we're going to see next week for consumers is going to be Siri, and you described it properly. As Siri's been around since 2011, and they've just lost the confidence of the consumer. People typically use it to check the time and potentially ask what the temperature is, but that's about it. And of course, what by a deal with likely OpenAI, potentially Google, but allowing you to have a conversation, really opens up a whole different use case for Siri. In part, trying to find more of what you're looking for, but also this concept of agentic or personalized AI. And keep in mind that when it comes to Siri, all of Apple's devices, with the exception of AirPods, have the ability to summon Siri. And so think of this. We talk about different forms of wearing and having AI close to us. Siri is probably going to be the best way that that's going to be embodied. And so big opportunity. They better nail that piece related to a better conversation with Siri. People are going to give it one more try. If they miss this, they're in trouble. But if they nail it, I think the view of Siri is going to change materially.
Doesn't your phone have the time like right on in its resting state?
I think, yeah,
that's what Siri.
The phone does have the time.
When I see Siri, when I bump the phone the wrong way and it comes up and I get annoyed, it's like, oh, what is? Doesn't that happen to you when you bump it the phone and there's Siri all of a sudden? Yeah, say I don't want you. Yeah, and so it's just an annoyance at this point. That's definitely not what they need. I don't think so. Will Apple be the preeminent tech stock again, Dean? And does the NASDAQ need Apple to be the preeminent tech stock?
I think it's going to be the number 1 or 2 at the top. If you think about the Mag 7, NVIDIA is obviously having this breathtaking run that will probably last a few years. But if you think about the scope about what Apple can do over the next 5 years, we've talked about just injecting AI into the business, but there still is this other piece that they haven't tapped into that is related to kind of bringing the world to us in a more seamless way. And so what that means is what Vision Pro, of course, has not been a success. They've been struggling to get adoption of that, but it does tease out the ability to have some form of a wearable. What Google showed with their Astra a couple weeks ago really was, I think, embodied the opportunity that Apple has to come out with new devices. And I think if you play that forward and think about just a next generation of devices that are going to be more AI enabled, I think Apple's in a great place. It's going to put it at the top of the list in terms of tech companies. The one piece I think it's worth noting is that Apple, Microsoft largely don't have control of their AI destiny. And I think that they're going to be doing these partnerships. Google and Meta are in a different camp because they're the two of the mega caps. So that is one reason why I just can't definitively say Apple's at the absolute top, because how they're going to be, where that soul of their AI strategy, it could be in the balance of someone else's hands like OpenAI.